I can't sing. My wife won't let me sing. Welcome to the show, and thanks for being with us. You're here with Raymond Smith and Sandra Johnson, and we have our guest host, John McClain. Say hi, John.
Hey.
On our show today, we have John Lambrose, who is the team leader for the Tom DeBerry State Farm Agency. And later on the show, we'll have Mr. Willie Blake, who is the commissioner of the city of Tucson, to talk about his community efforts he's doing throughout the town. So we'll start off with John. How you doing today, John?
I'm well. Thanks for having me.
So letting everybody know, John is a very, very good friend of the family. We're so glad to have him on the show. But he's also a very talented State Farm team leader. So with that being said, John, tell us a little bit about yourself and about the family.
Yeah, so I've been married to my wife for 10 years as of last March. So
does she have a name?
11. Her name is Bethany. And then I have
There's going to be a lot of this coming. I see it. A little jab.
I'll get them once the mics are muted. And then I have 4 daughters, Ruby, Junebug, Kira, and Ophelia.
I love those names. Very nice.
Yeah.
How long have you been with State Farm? Oh, Tom DeBerry.
So I've been with Tom for 10 years, a little over 10 years, and then State Farm for 12. Insurance for 12 years that whole time.
And you're from Tucson, right?
Yeah, born and raised.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So is my wife.
So would you call yourself a Tucsonian or a Tucsonan?
I say Tucsonan.
Okay, well,
Is this a
thanks
topic
for
of
validating. Thanks for
Man, we should do
validating
a
that.
poll on that one. That's a hot question.
Tucsonan, yeah.
Yeah, we need to poll that from now on and find out how many people
Absolutely.
say Tucsonan and Tucsonian.
Yeah, that's definitely a good one to put online.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
Well, one of the reasons that we wanted to have you here today, John, was because home property values have definitely gone up in the last few years and at a really pretty brisk pace.
Mm-hmm.
So my first question to you is, do you find that most homeowners are undervaluing the value of their policy as far as insuring their homes?
Yeah, that's a good question. We get asked this very frequently with what's going on in the market, what has been going. A lot of people are calling and asking about that. The first thing we always try to clear up with the clients is, from the insurance end, we're not necessarily looking at the market value of the home, because if that home burns down, we're not cutting you a check for whatever the market says. We're actually rebuilding the home for you, right? So that might have some relationship to the market, but it's not going to just be, a lazy insurance agent will just say, "What'd you buy the house for?" Okay, here's what we're paying for that, right?
Gotcha.
So we have tools that we get from third-party companies in the industry that will develop, different things, building material costs and labor locally, and we use that to develop a rebuild cost for the home. It's not necessarily the market value.
Okay, well, I think equal in pace to the market value has been the cost of those materials.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have been seeing clients coming in, we'll review that, and we will increase that. That's been pretty true for the past couple of years. But again, it's not, hey, I just looked at Zillow and my house says it's worth this. Okay, let's increase it, right? There's a lot more we want to go through with you. If you take your house and you put it on a beach in Malibu, it's going to be worth a heck of a lot more money, right?
That'd be great
construction
if I could do
costs are more in Malibu, but it's not going to be $6 million more, right? So we want to look at that, look at the variables there.
How often do you think that homeowner should review their policy with you?
We recommend that actual rebuild cost estimate. We recommend doing that every few years.
Okay.
So if it's been 3-4 years and a client comes in, we'll pop that up and just take a look at it. Of course, if you do any work on your home, if you do an addition, if you put in a guest house, whatever it may be, you want to call us while that's going up, right? But every 3 to 4 years, we try to have a pretty robust review system with our clients where we're getting them in every other year anyways. So usually that gets covered. But if your agent isn't doing that, call every few years and ask if you can come in.
And at what point would you say, like during a remodel, if I'm just remodeling my bathroom, probably not going to have a huge impact on that policy, but at what point would you say, yeah, that's pretty significant and you might want to review it with your agent?
Yeah, most homeowners policies have an automatic buffer in it. So if you have a $500,000 house, you might have a 20% or a 30% buffer. So
Okay.
really your home's insured for 120, 130% of that number.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So if you put in new windows, hey, it was 10 grand or 15 grand for new windows, you might want to call, but that's probably not going to be something where you're way out of the range that your home's already at, right? But if you're doing something major, hey, we just redid all the bathrooms in the kitchen, we just added on square footage, then you're going to want to call.
Is there a big difference between new builds and homes that are established?
Yes and no. The new builds often get a much better rating insurance-wise, just
Okay.
because they know everything's new. They know there's not going to be any problems with the roof. Well, there's probably not going to be any problems with the roof.
Good
right?
call.
You guys might have some different answers for that.
Good call, John.
But yeah, in general, it's a little bit more neat and tidy with a new build, and your rate tends to be a little bit better. Not a massive amount. It's not going to be well, we chose new build because of the insurance cost. That'll never affect that decision.
John, during the COVID time, did you guys see more business or less business during that time?
I think with where we were at, just being in Arizona, we actually saw, we were expecting a pretty big dip, and we actually saw staying about the same, maybe a little bit more.
Okay.
A lot of that is, we try to position ourselves so that if there are folks moving into town, we're one of the top agencies that come up if you search State Farm, Tucson, right?
Right.
And so we found there was just a really large influx of folks moving in from other states, coming in, and we were able to help those folks out.
Interesting.
We
There's not too many
do-
industries that actually were able to sustain and even thrive in a way during COVID. So to hear that insurance industry did, that's good. Because certainly, I'm sure there's a lot of stability in your life with $4,
Yeah.
which is much needed. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when everything happened and we kind of realized the severity of it, mine and Tom's biggest thing was just, I really hope we don't have to let anyone go.
Yes,
business is
understood.
going down. So we were blessed to not have to do that, and we actually hired people during that time as well.
Oh, that's
So-
great.
When we're looking at working with a buyer who's getting ready to make a purchase, we generally will tell them to go to whoever has their auto policy because they're going to get a better rate bundling. Do you have any thoughts to share on that?
Yeah, tell them to come to John Lambrose.
I think that's a great idea.
No, I think the insurance relationship is always one of trust, right? So if you have your policies here with one agent, here with another, I'd say get those together with someone that you trust, and I would go with the person that you trust. Everyone has a problem with their insurance when either they have a rate increase that doesn't have an explanation, or
Right.
they have a claim and something that they thought was covered isn't covered, right?
Right.
So have someone that you trust that will go over those things with you so you know what's going to happen.
Like
You
a
know,
good
when-
neighbor is
There
what
you
you're
go.
saying.
That's
Okay,
right.
Got it.
Exactly.
Hey, I was just going to say it's a good time for them to kind of reevaluate. So maybe if their policy isn't with you, they should probably take the time to call 2 or 3 other companies and make sure they're getting the best value, because insurance companies do change.
Yeah, I would say if you have an agent, you have a relationship, that's the best thing possible. That's going to prevent a lot of problems in your life. If you don't have that, if you're working with a call center, I would definitely encourage you to find an agent, find someone you can have a relationship with for sure.
All right, guys, we're here with John Lambrose, who is the team leader for Tom DeBerry State Farm Agency. We'll be back on the other side to talk a little bit more with John. Talk to you soon.
John, Tom, one of them.
Yeah, one of
will
them.
be here.
We'll be here. Welcome back to the I Am Real Estate Show with Sandra, Raymond, and John. We also have our guest, who is John he's a team leader for Tom DeBerry State Farm Agency.
And we were just talking on break a little bit. We have a lot of clients that come into town buying a house, and they're thinking about doing that short-term rental, an Airbnb and a vacation rental by owner. What advice do you have for them when it comes to insurance coverage?
Yeah, good question. Definitely call your agent because the standard homeowner's policy usually does not cover that kind of liability.
Okay.
So if you're doing an Airbnb, you don't have the extra coverage that you should get. There's a good chance that if there's a claim, that's not going to be covered, especially on the liability portion of the policy.
Okay.
There. And that's where things get really messy. You get in a lawsuit, someone's suing you, you find out you don't have coverage, that could ruin the next few years of your life there. So call in. I can't speak for other companies. I know that State Farm has a coverage tag. It's modestly priced. I think it's $80, $90 a year, and
that's
that'll
not bad.
extend all that coverage for you there.
And what does that type of coverage look like? What is the differentiation between an Airbnb insurance coverage versus your regular homeowner's coverage?
Yeah, so the homeowners is just going to have personal liability coverage on it. And so if you have an Airbnb where money is exchanged from an insurance perspective, that's going to be considered a business exposure, right? Liability wise. So if you have something going on with the business and then there's a liability claim, you don't have any type of liability coverage because the homeowners by itself just covers that. And then usually most companies will exclude the physical coverage if they know that you're renting it out to someone and haven't made the proper adjustments there. So it's easy to get that covered. It's just a matter of calling your agent, letting them know what's going on, and making sure that you have the proper coverage there.
Yeah, sometimes we just don't know what to ask.
Yeah. Well, and that goes back to that relationship that I was talking about with your agent, where you want someone who's calling you and saying, "Hey, come on in, let's review." They might not have anything specific to go over with you, but things just come up. Oh, you're renting your house out 3 months. Oh, I never thought to call my insurance agent, but he called you, had you come in, and that's where these things come up.
Right.
Would that be similar if you were renting just a room out to maybe a college student or something like that?
Yeah, there's some general coverage for roomers and boarders usually in the base policy. That's more of kind of incidental type coverage. If anything that's going to be pretty consistent, pretty regular, I would always just call in, talk with your agent, and see what the situation is.
Okay.
I saw something before on flood insurance. Can we talk a little about flood insurance?
Sure.
And I looked at the property, and the property didn't say that it was under floodplain. Does that make a difference? Does it have to say, if it says on the floodplain, does that make a difference for the flood insurance as far as you're concerned?
It makes a difference in the price. But
I don't like that laugh at all.
Yeah. Well, and I'm speaking, so with State Farm specifically, we only broker policies through the flood insurance program. So if you call us for a flood insurance policy, we do some of the footwork and kind of help you, but it's really you're doing it through the government. So we just kind of joke that, we used to sell our own policies, and then we ended up kind of closing that down because the government made it a little bit difficult, and now we just work for a few pennies for the government policies. There are private policies you can get, and we'll sometimes refer folks to an insurance broker for those, but we don't really interact with those a whole lot.
What about additional types of coverages that people may not think about but that are available?
Yeah, on the homeowners, the biggest ones when I'm doing reviews with clients that I come in contact with, one is just looking at, we'll call them riders or like a personal articles policy. Usually the base homeowners has a large amount of contents coverage.
Okay.
But there's certain limits on certain categories that just come standard. So like jewelry is a big one. It's jewelry and furs, but I've met one person in 12 years that has furs here in Tucson. Things like firearms, artwork, things of that nature. And there's usually pretty minimal limits on the standard policy.
Right.
So usually once we get into a conversation, we're talking with folks just about their life and what's going on in their house. They'll find that they want some more coverage, and you can get that accomplished pretty inexpensively with the rider.
Sounds really good when someone comes to meet you. When someone comes to sit and have a conversation with you, how long are they in your office? You're sitting there when you first meet them.
Yeah, I tell our clients, I have 30 minutes of things I want to go over with you, and then the rest is up to you. So
Okay.
I always book out a client for an hour. We might end right at 30 minutes. We might be going an hour and 15. That's really just up to the client on how much we get into and how many questions they have.
One of the things that we also run into in real estate are the older homes that have typically cast iron plumbing that's heading out.
Like my house?
Oh, you have that. So you know where this conversation's going.
Like Popeye.
I know that people can add some type of coverage onto their water bill, but usually it's more economical to add that onto your homeowner's policy, isn't it?
Yeah, it depends if the company offers it. State Farm just recently, about 3 or 4 years ago, started offering, we call it service line coverage. So sewer line, water line, electrical, gas, it technically extends over those. Where we really see it help folks is with that sewer line. If that line goes south, even with things like root incursion, we can help. It's $10,000 of coverage with us. So usually when you see, hey, we got to dig everything up, that's a $20,000 plus expense. So it's not covering all of that, but we can help with the bulk of that.
Do you always look at digging the line up and replacing it, or does that policy sometimes, will it cover if they're just I can't think of what you call it. I know they do the hydrojetting of the pipes, but also kind of a lining on the inside.
Yeah, I haven't come across one with the lining. I do know I just helped a client out that he just had maybe a 4 or 5 foot section.
Okay.
Which even then to pay someone, I think it was $4,000 or $5,000 just to get in there and get it cleaned out and get that section replaced. But we were able to help her with that.
Yeah, didn't you like how Sandra looked to us, for me and Ray, to give her the answer of the word, but we had nothing. So yeah, you're more sophisticated than us on that one.
Oh, that's great. That's
home
great,
warranty
John.
policies. Do you guys take care of that? Do that?
It's not technically a home warranty. We have, I call it a home warranty light, right? So, your typical home warranty, it's going to be, $400 or $500 a year, depending on the policy
Or
there.
6 or 7.
Right. Yeah.
Inflation, John. Think about inflation.
Yeah.
It's going to be $10,000 a year. So ours is $99. It's $100. And
Wow.
it's going to cover, we call it home systems protection. So
Okay.
it's home systems and permanently installed appliances. So if you have a gas range that you can slide out to vacuum behind, that's not permanently installed, right? If it's built into the countertop, that's a permanently installed appliance. But really what it's for are things like your HVAC system and your hot water heater. That's where
Okay.
we've really seen it help folks.
Yeah.
It'll extend coverage to things like mechanical breakdown. It's not going to cover wear and tear. No insurance product does wear and tear. But if your compressor blows in the middle of the summer, we're going to help kick in some money to help replace that.
What kind of coverages or limits do you have on those coverages?
Yeah, so if it's 15 years old or younger, so 14 and just a few days shy, then we're going to pay up to $50,000. If it's older than that, then we pay up to $2,000. So we just help you a little bit if it's an older system.
John, sorry, I apologize. How does someone get a hold of you?
You can look up just tomdeberry.com.
Okay.
Go to our website there, and you can reach out to me that way.
Okay.
Or you just give it the call to the office and ask for me, and should be there. There's only 6 of us on staff, so it's a local group, and you can always reach me.
Can you give us that phone number?
Yeah, 520-298-7111.
All right. Thanks for being with us. We appreciate it. And we'll be right back after the break.
Thank
In case
you.
you didn't know we're with John Lambrose. We're back. We want to thank you for listening to us. Well, John Lambrose was here. I want to remember his number. We'll try to get his number in case you missed it. So right now we're excited to have Mr. Willie Blake, who is a staple in our Tucson community. He's commissioner of City of Tucson. He also was the retired business rep for the union for Local 104. And he also has a park named after him. He's Willie Blake Community Park in Western Hills. How you doing, Mr. Blake?
I'm fine. Ain't it good to be alive?
Yes, sir. Yes,
it
sir.
is. Good to be alive and to be sitting here with you, Willie Blake.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you.
So, what brought you to Tucson?
First of all, we have a farm in Arkansas, and I saw my dad struggling to pay for it, and I was the oldest brother that could see, so I took it on myself to sit down and talk with my dad, and I told him that I was going to come here and work and help him pay for the farm. And we did. Before he died, we got it paid for. And
Wow,
that was,
that's
to me, that
awesome.
was a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
How did you find Tucson? I mean, you had the whole United States.
Yes, but my cousin is the one who came there and asked me did I want to come back to Tucson. I never seen cactus, nothing like that. I saw it on TV on Cisco Kid and all that. But I went ahead and took a chance. He asked me did I want to come to Tucson, and I came to Tucson.
And what year
So,
was that?
In 1962. Some of the roads wasn't very long. They stopped at a certain point. It's been a good journey.
Yeah, would you call this home now?
I'm at home now. once you leave home, you'll visit them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like a bird. Once he flies away, you know, I'm just a visitor when I go home. And when I come back to my house, I'm at home now.
Oh, that's great.
So you do a lot of community work, and I know that before, as Raymond mentioned, you had started with the union. But what got you into working in your community?
Well, when I came here, I moved into a neighborhood to where I didn't see any black people.
Mm-hmm.
So where I came from, there was a whole, different people. So I wanted to be where I could see everybody, different races of people. So, and after I'd done 34 years with the Teamsters Union, the neighborhood that I lived in there was so much crime. And the police officers couldn't come in my neighborhood unless there was about 4 or 5 deep. And it was a lot of meanness in the community. So I figured that I wanted to try to make it better. And being a student of Martin Luther King, he taught me that life is more than just yourself.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot going on in the community, so I should be a part of it. So every second night there was 2 or 3 killings. The seniors, they couldn't sit on the porch. They had to just stay in the house. The kids couldn't play.
Right.
And that was a terrible thing to me. And I figured, why should I have a home in the community and I can't sit on the porch, I can't go walking?
Right.
So I figured I'm going to be one that says, I'm not going to put up with this. And I got started in the community. And I've been working ever since. We have to, like Martin Luther King say, it's not about me, it's about the children, the seniors, the handicapped, people can't walk or talk. And you got to keep that in mind. You're going to be that one, be like that one day. I'm sorry. One day it's going to be you.
Right.
So I figured that maybe if I had helped somebody now, maybe they would help me later.
What I want to talk about is your community park. When did it get named the Willie Blake Park? You remember what year that was?
Yeah, in 2008. I retired in the year 2000. And the reason, it wasn't about me getting my name on it. It was about the seniors or the handicapped people. They're afraid to go to certain parks. And I hate to say this, but sometimes old folks is afraid of young people. So I put it right in the front of my house, and I can look out my door and I can see you. I can see everything that goes on in my park.
Okay.
And if you mess with the seniors or the handicapped, you're going to jail. You're going to jail. I'm sorry.
I believe that.
You're going to jail.
One of the things you told me about the community you have is that the supermarkets and stuff there weren't stores out there, and you brought more back into the community. How did you make that happen?
Well, first, we had to get rid of, nobody would invest until we got the criminal element out of there.
Okay.
Because it was bad. So people wouldn't even come in that area, wouldn't even come to Western Hills, South Park, Los Vistas, Pueblo Garden. They wouldn't even come in the area. They was afraid to. And I understand why. So what I done, we got grant funds, $6 million, so we could have those funds for the police officer to stay in those areas, those neighborhoods, those 4 neighborhoods. And I paid all of the workers except for me. I wouldn't accept pay. So that way I could just stay on the clock all the time, and I stayed on the clock working. And with the funds, we shared it with the police department to buy speed guns, just whatever they need to help us.
Okay.
And then they was paid to work overtime, stay in our neighborhood. And they did that, and I tell you, it's a different neighborhood now.
That's great to hear.
So the young people can get out and walk and play, the elders, handicapped. You see them doing everything now. Before, they would not do it.
I'm sitting here in awe, just listening to you talk. My biggest fear having you on the show was that I was just going to get lost and have nothing to say, because I could hear you talk all day long. Just what an investment you made, not just in your community, but in the lives of the people who are living in your community, in your neighbors, and that kind of neighborly spirit that you have. And that's something I'm going to just say your parents had to instill in you as a young man.
Yes, it's good to think about others. Like I say, it's not just about you.
Right.
It's the world was built on love. You got to reach out and share kindness and love, and you keep it going. Goodness come to me, I pass it on to you. Yes.
We're talking with Mr. Willie Blake, who has a park named after him, the community park in Western Hills. He's also the commissioner of City of Tucson, and he's retired business rep for a local union on 104. We're here with Billy. Mr. Willie Blake, one thing I want to ask before we go on break is, are you having fun?
Yes, I'm having. I'm having fun. I have no problem talking. I'll talk holes in your clothes. It's good, man.
You're listening to Ray Smith and Sandra Johnson on the I Am Real Estate Show on 10:30 a.m. The Voice. We'll be back with more of the show. We'll be back with more of Mr. Willie Blake.
Talk holes in your clothes. I'm taking that.
Welcome back to the I Am Real Estate Show. You're here with Sandra, Ray, and John, and we have the Honorable Mr. Willie Blake.
We are actually so thrilled to have you here today. When we look at the show and kind of the purpose of the show, we do talk about real estate, but we talk a lot about community, because we know that nothing impacts real estate more than the community and the health and wellness of a community that we're in. And you have been really instrumental in working with businesses that are coming into your neighborhood and having those businesses develop a relationship with the community. And we're specifically talking about Marketplace and the U of A Tech Park. Can you tell us a little bit about how that process started and what you are able to do through those partnerships that you have?
Yes, I'd be glad to lay it out to you. It started years ago with what you call the weed and seed. There were 4 neighborhoods. We started what you call the Keno Weed and Seed. And the Keno Weed and Seed is not a program. It's a strategy to improve our neighborhood. After then, it used to be nothing but desert out there, and homeless were living in there. They do crime out in there in the neighborhood and run back to the desert. So I looked at that. 2 things I looked at. There was no place to shop in that area, no place at all. We had to go all the way over to Grant Road, all the way over to Valencia just for the elders to shop. When they went and got their food at Costco or Price, whatever it was, they had to get back on the bus with their food in their hand and drive all the way back by bus. But the young people would be picking at them while they on the bus and trying to make it home. And that's when I decided I got to do something about this. So I put together a group of people who helped me with this shopping, and business people who saw the potential of it being something big, and it is really big right now. But as we went from meeting to meeting, oh man, we went through a lot. We had to go through the city council, the planning development, to even get the pad changed. Once we got the pad changed and the zoning and all this done, then we had to meet with community to find, kind of have an idea of what we wanted to do.
Right.
What we wanted, we didn't want no adult bookstores and all this stuff in our community. We wanted something where we could go right across there and shop, get our food, Walmart, Costco, the movies. We got everything there now. So it's big over there now.
Yes.
And it's growing bigger and bigger. There's people that's coming from out of town, from everywhere to shop in this little place. So I'm really proud of it. What helped the community, after those businesses there got certain square feet, they had to share the funds with the community.
Wow.
Each neighborhood association, we got probably $100,000. But what we done, we decided when we first started that we was going to take some of the funds and give it to Prima One Stop,
Oh yeah.
over Prima One Stop, so they could train the people in those 4 communities.
Wow.
You couldn't move the money nowhere else. It got to be in those 4 communities because we were the one who went to bat so those business could be over there.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. So really, they really don't know how they got there. All they know is we are doing business over here, but they don't know the people who fought and went through tiring meetings, fussing and fighting with one another. Just everything. There were people there at this meeting that didn't even live in our neighborhood, but we were the victors in the end.
And that-
Yeah.
That's a great story. The one thing you also do that you do grants.
Yeah.
And you're very good at. You do a lot for the city and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about how that helped the community, the ability to understand what grant procedures was required, and how you get those things completed.
Okay. Can I tell you a little bit about the Prima One Stop?
Mhm.
You can talk all day, Mr. Willie.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
You can do
Over-
anything
Anything
you want.
sir.
Okay, over at Pima One Stop, we do the grants for Pima County Board of Supervisors. They have money that they give to different areas, but in the county areas, okay? In the county areas, like Amado, Green Valley, out at Sales, there are old people in those areas who can't get to town to get to the food bank, to get help when they need it.
Right.
So instead of doing that, we have people that work in those areas. I like the idea if the elderly, the old people can't come and get it, they'll deliver it to you,
Yes.
and that's great. And that's where I want to be, to help people who can't help themselves.
Yes, sir.
Mhm.
Now the grants that is being written in those areas, Green Valley, Amado, and all those places, when they write a grant, they come to the Prima One Stop. We have a committee. I'm the chairperson, and we look at those grants that they're presenting to us, and if we see that they're okay, we forward them on to the Prima County Board of Supervisors.
Wow.
They okay it, and then disperse the funds to them.
What you've done in the community is great. When you said there's a framework, and you said something, I think it's a strategy to improve the neighborhood.
Yeah.
If that's something that can be shared with anyone in the community, there's some way they can get that copy of that document you were talking about.
Well, what it is, it's your president of your community. Your community is only as good as your president. If your president of your neighborhood association is no good, so won't be your community. Don't get mad at me. I'm sorry. If your president is no good and not doing anything, your neighborhood is going to be the same thing.
Right.
Yeah. You got to have a president that's really trying to do something. And then plus, Phoenix, they asked me to come to Phoenix and help them, to show them how I got involved in my community. Also, the main thing they wanted, how to improve relationship with the police department.
Yes, sir.
So I work with them also. Here's in different communities, the older people in the community might have had a bad relationship with the police department. Those words that happened to them, they're gonna pass it on to the young people.
Yes, sir.
The young people now thinking, I hate the police because you mess with my parents, now you gonna mess with me too. And let me say this to you, the chief of police that we have right now, I'm glad you asked me. The chief of police, his name was Chad. He changed the whole thing. I had to sit down and had a meeting with him, and you can see now all the police department, all of them is coming to the community. It used to be they would not come to the community.
Yes, sir.
Every event that we have, you look and see a police officer, or you have to pay for them coming to our community, to our events. They come, they dance with the kids, they eat food, they sit down and talk with us, they mingle through the crowd. That's how you improve relationship with community and the police department, not standing over there with your arms folded, ready to arrest me.
I hear you saying you have to be intentional.
Yes.
And so you're intentionally building relationships.
Intentionally, yes.
and you're doing it from a standpoint of a very pure heart and pure motives, and really the end goal is to improve the lives, especially for the people who can't do that for themselves.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yes,
I
I
like
love you.
that. I
Mr. Willie
like
Blake
that.
is on the air. I
Yes.
absolutely adore this man.
When we sit there and we talk about the communities, so what you're telling people is that is it okay if the people try to get a hold of you to talk about your community and how you get started? Because what I'd like to hear is maybe other people who are listening, other HOAs, they'll call their president and say, hey, can you call Mr. Willie Blake and ask him about what he did for that community and how he did that, and how do we do the same thing to bring camaraderie and community love in the one little spot? So it's okay to give your phone number out or your email address out?
No, you can get my phone number, 520-971-6735.
Say that again, Mr.
I'm going to lay it on you again.
There you go.
520-971-6735.
And do you do a lot of speaking engagements for communities and stuff like that?
Yes, I done a lot speaking at the police department in different areas, down in Thatcher, Arizona, to the college down there.
Yeah.
And I speak to all the young people. And the reason why I do it, you have to think when you are young, your mind is fast. You're in the fast lane. And you got to think they're away from home. The young people say, I'm not at home no more. I don't have to do what mom and dad say.
Yes, sir.
I've always thought when you get away from God's teaching and your mom and dad word, and you figure you can do what you want to do, now comes trouble.
Yes, sir.
Mhm.
Now you got to turn around at those people who you didn't want to be involved with, like your mom and daddy. Mom and daddy got to come and get you out of trouble.
Yes, sir.
Can we all just get along?
Oh, thank you so much for saying that. I have, if this may be my last question, it depends on how long it takes to answer it, and I'm sorry for not preparing you for this, but what advice would you give to Willie Blake at 20 years old, if you were able to go back and give yourself some advice?
Well, what helped me was I went through a lot because I was the oldest son who could work. I had another brother, but he was blind and couldn't see. So they all looked at me as me being that leader. When I left home and got away from mom and dad, as I look back now, I didn't get away from God's teaching. I didn't get away from what my mom and dad taught me, and I kept my mind on the way Martin Luther King taught us to live. So that's how I got in, how I am right now, and I'm glad. I'm glad.
We're so happy to have Mr. Willie Blake here. As you noticed, that I'm only saying Mr. Willie Blake. I don't know any other way to talk to him or to give him any other name. Remember, he was the commissioner of the city of Tucson. He also was a union business rep for Local 104, and he has his own park, Willie Blake Community Park in Western Hills. We're going to say some things, and Sandra's going to close out.
We thank you for being here today. We'd also like to spank. I can't believe I did that. I did that. We want to thank our sponsors, Horizon Home Inspection, Indy Realty, Inspired Life Mortgage, the Arizona Sands Club, Rigo Pest Prevention, Atomic Nutrition, and Sweet Little Shops. Thanks for spending your afternoon with us today.
Yeah, I guess I'm next to say it, huh?